What's up guys, Garrett here with Parts View, back for another one of our Basics of Boating video series segments. Today we're going to talk about how to anchor a boat. We're going to go over some of the things like the different types of anchors, how much line you should have out, all that good stuff to make sure you can anchor efficiently and safely. So let's take a look. First things first, let's look at some of the different types of anchors. What we have here is called the Fluke Anchor. This is really great for smaller boats, muddy bottoms, soft bottoms, because you have these prongs here that will dig into the bottom. Now I will say in the rocky areas or really hard bottom, it might not hold as well. Another cool thing is you can see this anchor folds. It makes storage on a smaller watercraft very easy. We have a Plow Anchor. This is a really good choice for heavier boats, harder bottoms, rocky bottoms. This plow style will dig in there and it'll readjust constantly. If you have a lot of wind and current, it'll keep digging and keep anchoring itself and holding strong. And then similar to a plow, we have a claw anchor. Same kind of concept, does not fold like a plow does. Also great for re-anchoring. If you get a lot of scope out there with this anchor, this thing will hold very well. So a term you're going to want to pay attention to before setting out your anchor is called anchor scope. And what that is it's the ratio of the length of your line used to connect your anchor to your boat and the depth of the water. And an ideal ratio is 7:1. So that means for every foot of depth, you have 7 feet of line. For instance, I'm in 10 foot of water right now. I want to have a 70-foot anchor line if possible. Now, if you have really poor conditions and it's really windy or there's a lot of current, you might go to a 10:1 scope. And vice versa. If you're in an area with a lot of boats and you don't want your boat swinging around wildly, you might have to go to a 4:1 or a 5:1 anchor scope. But if you can get around that 7:1 ratio, that's a great place to ensure that your boat will hold. Now, one critical element to anchoring is to make sure you always secure the anchor line to the bow of the boat. Ideally, you have a bow cleat. Unfortunately, we don't have this on the boat. They kind of have this design down in here, but it'll work. It's enough on the bow. Just make sure you're as far on the bow as your boat will allow for. All right, so now that we've calculated our anchor scope, it's time to throw in the anchor. Make sure the bow of the boat is facing into the wind or the current or whatever's gonna push your boat the opposite way, and throw it in there carefully. Make sure you're keeping your feet and your hands clear of the rope coming out. So to set your anchor, you can either let the boat drift and let your anchor line become tight where the anchor will dig into the bottom, or you could use your engine. Just simply get in reverse very slowly until you feel that anchor is starting to grab. Now, to ensure there's no dragging of the anchor, just pay attention to your landmarks or buoys out in the water, or even your GPS, just to make sure you are being locked down in the place that you want to be. Now, to retrieve your anchor, ideally you have 2 people for this job. One guy will be on the boat slowly taking in the line. The other guy is driving the boat at the anchor. I'm gonna try to do this myself here. So I'm just gonna slowly go towards where my anchor is and bring in the slack line. Of course, make sure you don't run over your line and get it stuck in your prop or anything like that. Just slowly approach your anchor. And then when you get vertical or right above the anchor, you should feel it release out of the bottom. I'll shake the anchor a little bit at the boat, make sure the dirt comes off. We've retrieved our anchor. Well, that wraps up anchoring. You've seen a couple different types of anchor, how much scope you should ideally use, and some couple tips and tricks for throwing and retrieving the anchor. Hopefully this will help you guys next time you're out on the water. As always, make sure you subscribe to Parts View's YouTube channel and be on the lookout for the next video.